G'day everyone, welcome back to Harper's Shed. This time we're just going to go through some of the progress that's been made on my Supercharged 13B and get you caught up, and we're going to have a little chat. I've got a bit of an announcement at the end of the video too, so stick around for that. Alright, so just before we get into it, I'm just going to change up the video format ever so slightly and try and get some good progress done on this. It takes quite a long time when I'm trying to explain every little bit as I'm doing it. So if there's any particulars that you want more information on, I'm completely open to everything I'm doing. Let me know. Leave a comment, ask a question, but a lot of what I'm doing I've either already explained or it should be mostly self-explanatory. But as I said, if you want more information, please leave a comment, just ask, and I'm more than happy to help. So I really want to try and make this as transparent and sort of more relatable than some of the other videos that I've seen online. So anyway, I'll show you what I've done really quick, and then I'm going to crack on with some more work, and I'll bring you back when there's something decent to show. We'll try and do that just to get some good progress made. Let's go. So I really wish I could say that this was in, somewhere near its final resting place. It's not. Still a fair bit to go, but what I did do was mock the engine back together. Obviously, we're missing bits, but that's all right. I thought I'd put the main block back together so I could sort out my porting or port matching on the intake manifold. I really want to try and get, my goal this weekend was to get the porting finished on the engine. So I really chomping at the bit to get the engine fully assembled back together. But obviously, if I've got more port work to do, I can't do that. I'll just fill it full of metal filings. Not ideal. So I want to get it to that point. Now, what I can also do while I'm here, and we will be doing in this video, is making extra mounts for the support of the intake manifold. So, I mean, the Supercharger is relatively heavy, and obviously I've just butt welded the cast alloy bends. So it won't last like that, I guarantee it. So we need to do some pretty decent structural supports. What I'm going to do, I did have one comment that come through on one of the previous videos about possibly using these tags. So that was part of a retainer bolt for the alternator. And I'm going to use it. It was actually not a bad idea. I'm going to make a support that slips in behind it. And if I used some 10mm alloy plate, which is what that's made out of, it'll sit down there and comes pretty nice to the back of that. So I'm going to make a plate that goes across the front here, picks up on that one, and it'll sit in between them all. And that should really help stiffen that up. The other thing I'm going to do is in here, in this void, I'm going to make some filler plates, probably just out of some 3mm. So that'll help tie the top section of the runners to the lower section of the runners and really stiffen the whole lot up. I really don't want that cracking, so which I think it will. If I don't do anything about it, the weight of the charger, the heat cycles, the extra tension from the belt, it'll crack those. So we don't want to do that. So bit of cardboard, bit of alloy. So there's a little gap there, which is good. I can fill the gap, and that'll be well and truly solid. Then that'll take care of basically everything, because a lot of the extra load, as I said before, is the belt tension on the Supercharger pulling down. So we've got a bolt there, and then on the back side we've got a bolt going through there. 10mm plate welded together. That's not going anywhere. Front plate done. Welded on top. They don't even look half bad either. All the way around and up on the inside. So she's not breaking, and that's much better. I even had a bit of a thought. This is coming to you live, because this is as it comes out of my head. They're factory injectors, obviously not staying, but I reckon if I'm really clever, which I like to think I am, even though I'm not, I can make a fuel rail to fit in there, which would mean that I could go away from the plan of having them out here, which would keep this side of the manifold nice and clean. Right, an effort to update as I go. End plates are in, so they're what were they? I think they were about 4mm alloy. they're in, and it's stiffened everything up. So, other one on that side. I think they look pretty good. I tried to profile them, so they look neat. It will make it a little bit harder to do my injectors in there, like I said, but I think I'm still going to do it. I'm going to make a fuel rail that sits in there nice and slimline, but I'm going to wait until I get my injectors. So I still haven't finalised what I'm getting, but I'm going to get the actual injectors in there that I will be running instead of trying to use the ones, like the older factory ones that are just old and crap. And I also come back round and I V'd out my weld and put a whole another run through. That's not a crack, it's just a thing. And then I filled up all the holes in the manifold, welded them all up. So now I can come through, smooth out all my welds. I've still got to weld 2 little plates, block-off plates here for the EGR circuit. So I'm going to cut some little plates and weld them in. And then once I do that, the whole manifold can get cleaned and I can finally machine the top plate flat and then this face of the manifold flat, because everything's all warped, which it does when you weld it. So I can fit this on the machine as it sits, which is good, mounted to the block, so I can mount all that up in the mill and do it all in effectively one pass, which is really nice. Okay, little block off plates. Weld them in. They got a little chamfer around them so I can get some penetration, because I'm going to weld them on this side and the back side, and this whole face is getting machined, so I need to have a little bit of a gap there. It's pretty close. Bit of a gap there so that when I come back and machine this face, I don't machine the weld off completely and they fall out, because that would be bad. Welded. Not the prettiest welds, but there's plenty of penetration. I tried to get them nice and flat, so there was lots of surface area. Doesn't matter, it's all getting machined off anyway. Right, that's my machining setup for doing the face here. I'd take a bit more off this side than this side, just by the nature of how I had it set. So parallels on the bed, another packer block which is parallel, and then a face plate. So we clamp the face plate down, or the angle plate, sorry. And then I don't like the G clamps, but it was sort of all I could get in there. But this blower mounting face is now square to the bed, and then obviously the cutter is square to the bed. So I've machined this surface down. It was a little bit sort of high on that side just by how I made it, but now it's square. I did unfortunately go through my welds a little bit on these plugs, but instead of risking welding them back up again, I'm going to, because they're welded on the other side as well, not completely, but I'm going to flip the manifold over and I'm just going to fill the other side up with liquid Devcon. So structurally they're there because they're welded on the other side. I just need to block up the holes where they come through. So alright, let's get this off the machine and get it on the engine block. I don't know. So like I said, here's the setup for trying to get the supercharger flange flat. I have what I would refer to as a fly cutter. I made this up a long time ago for doing cylinder heads, and it works. It's flat and square and true, a little bit agricultural, but it does work. I am at full drop on the knee, so I can't go any further down. And anyway, block's bolted down. I did measure it as well in the corners, and it seems to be within about 1 mil all the way around, which is good. If I could get all this flat within probably 1 mil, 2 mil, I'll be happy. That's pretty good. That'll bring that down to 9 mil worth of plate as opposed to 10. But I mean, beggars can't be choosers, and I think it'll work just fine. So we'll do a couple of test passes and see how we go. Alright, so not done, obviously, but we are 0.6 in so far, and we've got pretty good contact over to here. We've got contact here. This is just my last cut line. I can't do it in a full span. It's close, but I can't. But we've got contact here, so essentially we've got a nice strip here and a nice strip down here. I'm worried I'm going to have to take a fair bit in here, so we'll see about that. I'll see how far it goes. But I think the majority of this whole plate is going to come up, as I said, probably within 1 mil, I'd say. It's pretty good.
always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win at life. I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings, bitch, hand me the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag, cause I sing what I mean and I bring it to the mad light. Ain't got time to kill, I got time to feel, I took the red pill, I know life's short so I wanna live real, but how's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel? How's it supposed to feel? They wanna say my name, but they holding back. They wanna say they hate, but they know it's cap. I ain't play no games, I just do that's fact. And I don't feel no shame, it's a mood you lack. I go crazy, nah bitch I ain't lazy. Track after track, I work on this shit daily. Pass me the jack, right as fuel, got me hazy. About to unpack all these things I've been chasing. I've got visions in my head, like memories after death. To be a legend instead of something you can forget. I'm living up every breath, I'd rather lead than be led. I'll fill the seats as I spread with every word that I've said.
There we have it. One beautifully flat supercharger mounting flange. It's good that way. And all the way across. It's good. That top little corner just misses out, but you know, it's about another 0.2, and it's not really that necessary. I'd rather keep the meat on the plate. The foot for the supercharger is sort of up in this top corner, but the bolt will be about there, so it's fine. There's more than enough support around there. Yeah, so I went over it. You can see some tool marks left up in this back corner sort of thing. Just, it's without doing it in one pass, it is incredibly difficult to get something, I would say perfectly flat, but yeah, anyway, it's not perfectly flat because there's always a uncertainty of measurement there, but it's more than good enough, especially for a gasket. And the thinnest portion, which is up in this back corner, is still just under 9mm, so more than enough. Yeah, we can take that off now. I can strip the block apart and finish up porting all the inside. Alright, now I know this is well and truly getting into the finer points of my specific setup here, but just in case anyone's interested, in order to get the blower centerline perfectly parallel with the E-shaft, so that the blower's not sitting skew and then the belt's all skew and everything. It doesn't really matter whether the blower's sitting off to one side or the other side, but it needs to be in the same plane. It needs to run parallel with the E-shaft. So what I did is I got my engineer straight edge. Oh, sorry, try and get you in frame. And I went off the front. Now I've got reference off the front, which was ground flat and square when I did the plates. And I stood it up, and then I measured the gap on that side, and then I moved it across, and I set it up, and I measured the gap on that side of the blower, off to this blower face. Now that case is obviously square, it has to be, so stick you over there. So that's how I did that, and at the moment it's sitting at about 0.05 of a millimeter square to the engineer straight edge, and I think that's going to be good enough for me, especially when you consider the length of the belt and everything. I mean, you know, there has to be some level of realism. So anyway, I'm going to come through. I'm going to machine some little slugs, or a transfer center punch. That's the correct diameter for that. I'm going to punch some holes, drill them, tap them, and then that supercharger is actually mounted. So, back on the bench, all apart. I just want to give you a really quick update on where I got to with porting, which is essentially the finished item. So you've seen these, they're basically done. So I'm still leaving, there's some amount of surface finish left on there. It's not like completely mirror polished. I'm of the belief that you want to try and keep the fuel air mix as it comes in, which it still is, so the fuel is being injected out here, it's not a direct injection. You need to keep that semi-turbulent in order for the fuel not to separate, especially on these back runners, on the secondaries, because the injectors are right up in the top of the manifold. The primary's, right down in here, so realistically it's not going to separate out, but it is sort of possible up here when it's getting injected up on top of the primary runner and it's coming all the way down and into the intake. It is possible for it to separate out. Well, that's what I believe anyway, so I'll go a little bit smoother than what they are now, but not much. On the exhaust, it's roughed out, so all I did here, I didn't change the opening shape at all, but all I did was drop the floor of this level with the, so I can get in there a bit better. So I dropped the floor back in here. I'll get a pointer there. So this section back here, that's better, back here was further up. And all I've done is got it so that it's level with the exhaust sleeve. And same at the top. I am going to come through and get this almost mirror polish, or at least just really, really fine finish. But that's all I've done with the exhaust. I didn't want to go too crazy, so it's just effectively port matched to the sleeve. So that's the same with both. The intake on the primaries is all done. Again, it's just a bit of a surface texture there that's showing up a different light, but so they're all done, smoothed out. And again, they'll go a bit finer. I've just got to get some smaller diameter little rotary flapper discs. And the exhaust on this one's the same, and then the intake on this one I'm pretty sure is the first one I showed. So yeah, they'll get a little bit smoother yet, but that's the finished product. So there we have it. Tiny bit more porting, and then the block itself is ready for paint, and I've got a pretty cool paint scheme in my mind too, which yeah, I think it's going to look pretty sick. So yeah, paint the block and then assemble. Got to do the bearings on the rotors, but we'll get there. Anyway, announcement. So I have decided to put a pretty firm deadline on myself to get this project up and more or less done. So myself and the car is going to be going to Summernats in 2023. So that's pretty big. If you don't know what Summernats is, give it a Google. It's, well, what they claim it's the biggest horsepower party in the country, and it is. It's wild. It's awesome. There's 6-second methanol drag cars idling past you right in front of your feet around the circuit. It's off tap. Anybody who's into cars, just go down. And I reckon it's one of the biggest burnout competitions in the entire world. Just ask Cletus McFarlane. He'll tell you how big it is. So anyway, I'm going down to that, and I'm going to enter the car, not in burnout competitions. I'm going to try and enter the car in the field, so just like the show and shine on the field, and essentially drive it. So you do laps of the parade grounds, but I don't want to trailer it down. I want to drive it down. So we are the 29th of May, and Summernats is normally the first week in January. So I'm going to say less than 6 months, because it needs a bit of drive time before I go and drive this thing 5 hours down to Canberra. So I've got less than 6 months to get this pile together, the body kit on, the car painted, running, tuned, registered, and semi-reliable, still a rotary, in order to get it down to Summernats. So that's not a little bit of work, that's a lot of work. You guys could really help out. I really want to try and get this channel up and rolling, so subscribe, like, share the crap out of it. Really want to try and get it around so I can get some good numbers up there, and hopefully try and help get this process a little bit more funded so I can get this thing down to Summer Nats, because I think it's going to be pretty cool down there. I mean, I'm going down regardless, but this machine's coming with me. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to start a new section in my channel, and I'm going to call it the Road to Summer Nats 23. So 2023, and I'll shift most of the RX-7 stuff into there, because over the next few months I am just going to be smashing it as hard as I can. So I got a couple of days off work next week, and I'm just going to lay into the bodywork. So stay tuned, subscribe, because it's coming at you. So as many videos as I can put out, I will. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you very, very soon. Bodywork's up next.